My name's Jason. The first man camp that I went to was in 2021. It took me a while to get over the fear of going to camp. And when I got there, I was very grateful that I did go. I remember sitting in the woods on the Saturday when we had our workbooks, going through the prompts in the book. And the prompt was, let Jesus guide your walk. Take a walk through the woods and let Jesus guide your walk. And I had been struggling for a while of, completely believing in Jesus. And I remember saying to myself, what's my hang up with letting Jesus be my higher power? Because at that point I was 17 years sober and had just a higher power that I chose to call the spirit of the universe, and that I was okay with using that, and it kept me sober to that point. And I'm walking through the woods, and I'm walking in the creek, and the directions in the workbook said, let Jesus guide your walk. And I noticed that every step I was taking, I was making sure that I wasn't falling walking through this creek. And I just kind of thought, if I'm letting Jesus guide this walk, then I shouldn't be watching every step that I take. So I came up out of the creek, started walking through the woods, and I started just following this trail of leaves, and it led me straight to a Jerusalem locust that had these long thorns on it that just reminded me of, the crown of thorns that Jesus had when he was crucified. And I just broke down and started crying right there at the tree, and it was just kind of like, if I'm looking for signs, I don't know how much more obvious, he's trying to make these signs. And I walked out of man camp in 2021 fully believing that Jesus is my higher power. And I came back the year after in 2022 and was baptized at man camp, and came back in 2023 with my uncle and a group of guys that I knew personally, and just watched them have the same types of experiences that I did. And I will be forever grateful for what those camps do, and what is provided for people to grow spiritually when they come to that place.
Welcome to The Aggressive Life, the podcast that's around to encourage you to make aggressive moves in your life. This is not the nice, happy thoughts podcast. It's not the make you feel good podcast. So I love making people feel good, and I love happy thoughts. It's really a thing that's designed to get you off your keister, to make a change in your life, to do something you're not doing right now, to do something that other people aren't doing that is a healthy thing to do. One of the proudest moments of my life, or at least one of the most gratifying moments of my life, is maybe the most important thing I've ever had a hand in creating, which is an experience to help men get off the grid, get in touch with their primal selves, get actual relational bonds with other men and with God. And it came because I was on a bike trip with a bunch of guys, and it was in Kentucky, and it was cold, and it was rainy, and that morning we sat around the campfire and had some coffee and had some breakfast out of dehydrated food. I remember it was kind of a miserable morning, and I just posed the question to say, hey guys, what could we do to make something like this available to more men? And this was someone had just opened up about their life, about a challenge they had, and people started encouraging this guy. And it was a really, if you will, sacred morning where we had the shackles of dreariness shaken off our mind. And I don't mean the shackles of dreariness of the rain, but just how life gets dreary. And there was just life in us. And we said, how can we have this happen with guys who aren't going to buy a motorcycle and can't come hang out with us? What do we do? Have experience of adventure, unpredictability, vigorousness, connection, all that stuff. And Man Camp was born. Man Camp 2024 is less than a month away. Tens of thousands of dudes have come, and you need to come. Ladies, if you're here, you're going to get encouraged today on today's episode, and maybe you're going to encourage your boyfriend or your husband or your brother or your son to come to Man Camp. It's less than a month away. Registration's closing very soon. At midnight on September 1st, your time to sign up will run out. Time to make the move and get going. Have you staked your claim yet? Have you been talking about this for a while? Maybe you've been talking about it, but now is the time for signing up. No more waiting, no more talking, no more planning. It's actually doing. I'm not a very good planner, but I'm a very, very good doer. I like planning. I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like people who plan and they don't do. That just annoys me. So you've probably said, yeah, I need to do that. I need to do that. Well, now's the time. Come on. There's nothing else that weekend you're going to do that's more important than this, unless you're getting married. Nothing else is going to affect the rest of your year more than this is. Nothing else is maybe going to positively change your life and could have reverberating impact on future generations. Yes, that's how much I believe in this, and that's how much thousands of others do as well. It's September 27th to 29th in Neville, Ohio. It's BYO everything. 9 years, 14-man camps under our belt. This thing only gets bigger and actually gets better. We're going to have our largest man camp to date, and I want you to be a part of it. It's going to be really, really cool. We've got 7 countries signed up right now, including France, United Kingdom, Uruguay. Wow. Oh, my gosh. The Frenchies are coming. I could tell a French joke right now, Dirt, but then like I discouraged the guys from France.
Yeah,
and
we still want you to come, France.
Yeah, and they did a pretty good Olympics.
They did.
Yeah.
They
Other than all the disciples and Jesus being transgender, gay, whatever was going on there. I'm not that
I don't know what's going on there,
anti someone who's gay. I am anti saying that that's what the disciples were, making it art. That kind of bummed me out. But nonetheless, the Frenchies did an amazing job.
Yeah.
Amazing job on the Paris Olympics. They did a fantastic job, and I'm sure the guys from France are going to be great as well. So we won't do any French jokes because real manly men coming over from France.
That's right.
It's wonderful. So anyway, this is also going to be the first man camp to include our new land. We bought 330 additional acres for you to enjoy and explore. We're actually not going to have the entire camp on the new land because there's some infrastructure stuff we don't have yet, but you're going to be able to camp on it and poop on it if you want and pee on it. It's actually way, way superior land to what we have right now. A lot more flat land. It's beautiful. That's going to be open for you. We're making space for more guys and easier camping spots for you. That's why, as a listener of this podcast, you can still use the promo code podcast15 at checkout to get 15% off your registration price, which is really, really ridiculous. We're incentivizing you to make this cheaper. There's nothing you're going to do for a whole weekend that comes close to this in price. Nothing. The only way this camp happens is because there's a large church that funds the staffing demands of it. That's the only way. You're not even paying break even. It's a small price. Go find some festival and see how much you're going to pay for a whole weekend. You're not going to pay this. It's going to be way, way, way more. And we do this because we're about you. We're about you, and we believe in your future and your possibility. So let's make it happen. Maybe if it's your first time, maybe you're a seasoned man camper, I'll just remind you, man, they never get old. There's always, always fresh stuff. It's a time to laugh with the other guys around the campfire. It's a time to turn off your phone, get away from work, email, text, social media notifications. What's your personal favorite thing about man camp, other than you have everybody else who's dirty?
Yeah.
Not just you.
Yeah, we're all dirty together. I love it. Probably the worship and teaching under the big tent. Just hearing all the guys singing together, yelling together, raising their hands is like primal energy, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, that melts people.
Totally.
It really does.
It's really powerful.
Even the person who has never sung in a group of people before, like we've had reporters come in from Men's Health and National Geographic, and those guys don't have any worship background, and they're melted.
Yeah.
It's a pretty powerful thing. So anyway, I could keep going on till I'm blue in the face. I'm not going to talk about man camp anymore. I'm going to have other people talk about how God has worked in their life through man camp. That's what today is. These are guys from all over the map, Cincy to Missouri to New Jersey. Not France yet, maybe next year. These guys all attended man camp last year. And this is the crazy thing. We put a bat call out, and they picked up the phone and they called our voicemail box and they shared their story. So understand that this is a year later. This isn't in the heat of the moment a year ago and we got their thing from a year. This is a year later. So a year of fruitfulness has happened in life, a year of change, a year of impact. Man Camp is not an event you just go to and it's nice. It is for some guys, actually. But for a heck of a lot of people, this is a life-altering thing. So if you've never been to Man Camp, you're going to hear some of the guys talk about what it meant for them. And you're going to hear about the mash tent from some of them. This is one of the secret sauces of Man Camp. It's a big tent full of guys trained and ready to pray for and with you, to hear that maybe God has a word from you for you that you're not hearing. And crazy stuff happens. It's one of the secret sauce. In the beginning of the weekend, the line at the beer trailers was longer than the prayer tent. And by the end of the weekend, there was no line at the beer kegs, and the line was getting into the tent. And so you hear guys refer to that. You'll find out why, because people have found this is a really special, important thing for them. You're also going to hear a few guys mention Otis and the Father's blessing. Otis is a great friend. He's actually been on the Aggressive Life before. He's a gifted communicator. He actually won 1 year Toastmasters International. And his talk was powerful, and you'll be able to hear about that in some of these stories. So, hey, look, destroy your spiritual comfort zone. Move beyond your physical limits. Find out what you're made of. That's what Man Camp is all about. And if these stories speak to you, head over to mancamp.us and get your ticket. Use the code PODCAST15 to save 15%. The clock is ticking. Tick tock. Now let's get to some Man Camp stories.
What is up, dudes? I'm Noah from Independence, Missouri. Last year, I came to Man Camp in an absolute desert. I did not feel God. It seemed like God was distant. During our solitude time on Saturday, I prayed that God would show up and move in a new way. And let me tell you, of course, God did. My dad died in 2020. Suddenly, it was at my brother's wedding. While the paramedics were performing CPR on my dad, I was greeted by the presence of God. God's presence was in the room, and it felt as if, like, almost God just laid his hands on my shoulders. And that's the moment that I wanted to chase after God. But I didn't feel that for a really long time. On Sunday, Otis spoke at Man Camp last year and asked if we wanted our Father's blessing. I never had the opportunity to get my father's blessing because of his sudden death. Otis asked if we wanted our Father's blessing to kneel down. So I acted by faith, and I knelt down. A dude from MASH came over and laid his hand on my left shoulder. And I'm very vivid because I want you to picture this. He came over and put his hand on my left shoulder. I grabbed his forearm with my right hand. And he laughed a little bit, which I thought was odd. I bowed my head, and he began to pray over me. As soon as he began to speak, that same presence that was in the room while my dad was getting CPR done on him came over me. The dude from MASH said, God is proud of you. God never meant for you to carry the burden of holding your family together. He also said God has work for you to do, and he will reveal it to you. And God loves you more than anything you can imagine. Let me tell you guys, God shows up when we ask. And when 3,000 men are under a tent worshiping, God shows up in unexpected ways. You need to get yourself to Man Camp. Whatever excuse you think is good enough is not. It's lame. Get there. Change your plans to get yourself there. This weekend will change your life. It's time for you to take new ground.
Hey there. My name is Joseph, and this is my Man Camp story. Last year was my first time going to Man Camp, and I didn't know what was going to be happening. I didn't know anybody going into this. I just know it was a couple thousand men, and we're all trying to get closer to God. And it sounded like a great time, so I decided to sign up. And I went having major social anxiety, just didn't know how to act around the guys and stuff. It was a big step for me, and I'm so glad that I did it. It was Saturday night when I decided to stand up and give my life to God. I always knew about God in my life, but I never started having a major relationship with Him until last year, and it was amazing. I mean, being able to go to a camp and just let out everything that you've been feeling for the past years, weeks, months, and just being in a judge-free zone around a bunch of other guys, there's no feeling like it. There's no judgment. There's no you cry, you laugh, you have a great time, and God works in miraculous ways. And I'm going to keep man camp this year as well. If this is your first time going to man camp, you're gonna love it. And if you haven't gone to man camp yet and you're thinking about doing it, sign up, do it. You're not gonna regret it.
Hey, this is Nick calling in from South Jersey. Man camp's just a special place. I've been to it a number of times now, and really excited to come up to man camp this September. Last man camp was pretty profound because God every time I come, God just shows up in ways that I never expect Him to, and at the time, I never expect Him to. And this last one was no different. I went into the match tent at night just thinking I needed a nightcap or whatever. Not a big deal. And just a simple prompting, and so I just obeyed it and went to it. Sat down with these guys, just told them, hey, I'm just kind of here just needing some prayer before I go to bed. Not a big deal. And they just started praying, saying that they're hearing that I need to trust the Lord more. And that wasn't even anything that I brought up. And they said that I need to trust the Lord in the same way that a father just wants to take his children and put them on his shoulders. And I immediately understood that reference, and that the Lord was showing up in this moment, because this was my middle child, my daughter. She just comes to me every day when I come home, or randomly when I'm home, and just says, "Daddy, I want shoulders. I just want to ride on your shoulders." She just wants to have fun and just be in that trust and that relationship with me. And I just broke down crying, understanding that. And there's so much more to that story and that time of prayer that it lasted to where I was in there for about an hour and a half. And from that, even throughout this past year, that's really rung true that I've had to trust the Lord in a much deeper way. And I've been taking some bold moves recently that has me trusting in the Lord, and He's given me the peace and comfort to be able to do that as well. So man camp's really started some major journeys in my faith, and it's just a place that men can come and be real. So thank you, man camp. God bless. Can't wait to see you this September. And if you're contemplating going, you need to go. Man camp's where it's at.
Hey, my name is Jordan May. I'm from Batesville, Indiana, and man camp saved my marriage. Each time that I've gone, and I've gone 3 times now, each one has been a slow removal process, an awakening process for me to realize the problems that I was having. So if any guy out there is struggling with addiction, just know that there is hope, there is freedom, and man camp can be the start for you. Not only is it a place where I restored my faith in Jesus and what He can do, but I finally found a true identity in who I am. I found a group of guys that care about me and a group of guys that struggle with the same thing, and I've been walking step in step with them since I've been there. And this year, this will be my 4th time going to man camp. I'm actually going to camp with those guys who've been in the trenches with me, fighting addiction alongside of me, hopefully celebrating a long-term year sobriety. So if there's any guy out there that's on the fence or is not sure what's possible, just know that there's a hope, and a future, and God has it for you, and it can start at Man Camp. Go be set free.
Hi, my name's Keith, and Man Camp has changed my life. I realize I'm not alone in my struggles, that other guys are there for me. I've also been able to take my oldest son to Man Camp, and it's been amazing for our relationship. I got to give my son his own father's blessing, and that was incredible. Have a good one.
Hey, my name's Wes. I just wanted to take the time to encourage anybody listening to this that Man Camp is for everyone. I think it's a place where you come as you are and you leave empowered. For me, I keep coming back because it's fuel to my fire. And Man Camp really is just a perfect recipe. It's just a weekend full of nature, worship, fellowship, flames, prayer, a little bit of hard work, and solitude. And I feel strengthened and encouraged in a walk with Jesus coming out of that weekend. Just want to encourage guys that might be on the fence about it, that if you prioritize it and you just show up as you are, just be vulnerable, you'll get a lot out of the weekend. If you don't, then I'll buy you a beer or something. But going up to it, I guarantee you there'll be a lot of things that will get in the way. Just keep trying to prioritize it. And coming out of the weekend, use what you learned, and it really is a special place. Just want to encourage everyone out there to come out. Hope to see you there.
Hi, this is Kent Allen. Just wanted to give you one of my Man Camp stories. It actually happened before Man Camp, but it really led to some really powerful lessons as part of the actual weekend. Actually, it goes back to listening to the Aggressive Life podcast. In one of the podcasts, Brian was interviewing someone, and Brian says, how do you pray? What's your prayer life like? And the person answered with a very simple answer and says, you know what? Every day I just say a prayer that says, God, prepare me to be the answer to somebody's prayer. Very simple, very, nondescript, no big thing there. So I decided that day I'm going to add this to my prayer, so that every day that I asked God, hey, prepare me to be the answer to somebody's prayer. Sure enough, the very next day after I had started that prayer, someone from Man Camp called me and said, Kent, we've had a team leader not be able to participate in the weekend, and we've got a unit of guys that have no team leader now, and we don't want them to miss out on this opportunity this weekend. So the guy said, hey, Kent, would you be willing to stay, take on some additional guys in your unit and just kind of help them out this weekend? And Kent, I just wanted to let you know, before I made this phone call, I just prayed that you would do this for me. And, what was I going to say? Am I going to say no to something like that? It was just so powerful to say, God, you prepared me for this. You had me the right mindset. And somebody prayed that I would be able to do something for them, and I was able to do it. So brought in those guys into my unit, never met them before. Literally, I brought them on about a week before the actual Man Camp, so no way to build a relationship with them. But at the minute we hit the ground, it was like we've been friends for 50 years. We just gelled together, had a great weekend, got some growth out of some guy from a spiritual standpoint. It was just a great weekend. So I'm just so thankful that, God prepared me to be able to take on those additional men, and that he got me to start praying to think about others, where I'm thinking, God, help me to be ready when a prayer request comes that I need to answer. Thank you. Doing a great job, Brian, with this podcast. Bye.
Hey, guys. My name's Micah. I just wanted to talk a little bit about why someone should go to Man Camp. Bottom line is there's nothing like it. You're put in this group of guys, and they become your brothers. And God has an opportunity to speak to you when you make the space for it. And I really suck at that on my own. And I found that God will speak to you if you let him. There are a lot of things, especially during the commissioning last year when I went. The Father's blessing was really powerful to me. I really needed it. When I went through a divorce 7 years ago, I found myself, in a really lonely and desperate place. And not to make this a real long story, I'm remarried now. My parents didn't come to my wedding, so needless to say, I do not have my earthly father's blessing. And this is the weight that I unloaded in the MASH tent. And Otis really drove it home with the blessing ceremony at the end of camp. The MASH tent guys were going around and giving blessings, and I found myself on my knees just begging for it, and I needed it. And it's, add to this the physical challenges and the camaraderie of the team and just the whole thing. I was blessed spiritually, physically, and emotionally, all of me. And I don't know any other place where you can do that. So I would challenge you to make the time to do it. I know we're all busy, but you just have to make time to do it. It's really, really an important thing, and it's a pivotal moment. So, yeah, that's what I got. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us on this journey toward aggressive living. Find more resources, articles, past episodes, and live events over at briantome.com. My new books, a repackaged edition of The 5 Marks of a Man and a brand new 5 Marks of a Man tactical guide are open right now on Amazon. If you haven't yet, leave this podcast a rating and review. It really helps get the show in front of new listeners. And if you want to connect, find me on Instagram at Brian Tome. The Aggressive Life is a production of Crossroads Church, Cincinnati, Ohio.